Now. Hello, welcome everyone to Elementos' quarterly webinar. Today I'll be joined by Managing Director Joe David, who will be sharing a short presentation covering the quarter as well as updating what the next quarter looks like. At the end of the webinar, Joe will be fielding questions that have been received during the week, and you can also ask questions during the webinar. Microsoft has done a major update with the Teams webinar product from April 1, which means everyone can see everyone. If you'd like to stay anonymous, you can hide your thumbnail by clicking on the icon that should appear in your thumbnail. Without further ado, I'll hand over to Joe to share his presentation with you. Joe, you're on.
Thanks for the intro, Gareth. Hey everyone, this is obviously one of the first quarterly webinars we've done. The plan for the company moving forward is to do these on a regular basis, and we'd like it to be, while it's not necessarily interactive, we certainly would like it to be a little bit more casual than the usual corporate presentation. So we have prepared a presentation for this presentation, which will be on the ASX if it's not already. And as I said, as went out in the ASX announcement, this will be saved and published on the ELT website moving forward. So I'm just going to share my screen now. I'm going to assume everyone can see this. Gareth can pop back up if that's not the case, but here I'll proceed. So as I said, this presentation should now be on the ASX, but basically covers the content that that's been made recently and specifically in the March quarterly. Just for those who may be new to the story, and apologies to the shareholders who've heard this regularly, but ELT is obviously a tin development company. We have two assets. Our major flagship asset is the Oropesa project in Spain, which we're moving forward with all efforts. And behind that, we have the Cleveland Tin project, which is at an earlier stage of development, even though it is an existing asset. So that's a brownfield expansion project. We did make a lot of material progress on our Cleveland project this month, so we will talk about that, specifically around the tungsten expansions to the tungsten resource and the metallurgical test work programs we're currently doing down there. Pretty exciting stuff, especially when you start investigating what's happening in the tungsten market, as well as the very, very strong tin market, which remains the quarterly average price for tin in the quarter was about $49,000 a tonne, so substantially above what the assumptions were used in the Oropesa DFS. Obviously, the other major part of the Spanish tin story is our option over the Roble tin smelter. Apologies to any of my Spanish speaking friends who are on the call. Roble is a very challenging word to say, and certainly my Spanish colleagues say it fairly different. That is the tin smelter that we have a 50% option over, 220 k's away from the Oropesa project, which makes us a fully integrated European supply chain, which, as we know, with all the global trade tensions and current conflicts, to be able to supply Europe with about 10% of its demand is a very significant strategic play for the company. So the other major update from the quarter, which I'm sure most of you are aware about, was the 20% placement, 19.9% placement to L1 Capital. L1 Capital is now the largest shareholder on our register, with Metals X sitting at about 16%, and our chairman, Andy Gregg, at about 13%. So basically those three major holders, I think it's clear that L1 is a high conviction investor who invest in generally companies much larger than ourselves, but they've, with our dialogue with the company, with L1, is that they're very strong believers of the tin thematic and very strong believers on the step change in value that should happen as Elementos moves from developer into production. They're obviously a very large fund, so they also will be there or there to play a major role when we go to raise equity alongside the debt. to fund the construction capital required to get Oropesa alongside. In addition to them, we obviously have Metals X. Metals X is the one of two globally listed tin producers, and obviously the largest tin producer in Australia. So having both L1 and Metals X on the register is obviously a substantial advantage to a company in the development phase we are, and validates all the hard work that we've done up to date, and the obviously the strategic plan that we have moving forward. So basically, yeah, three of those hold 49%. All of them have the ability to play a substantial role in the equity funding. Where's that money going to go? So in combination with the L1 placement, we did do a placement at the end of 2025. So the combo there is we have just under $40 million. It's quite clear majority of that will go to moving the Oropesa project forward through permitting, pre-FID activities. And then obviously with the current balance and forecast, it looks like a portion of that cash will also be there to provide the basis for an equity raise to project finance the company. Alongside that, obviously we've got a few payments upcoming for the Robert-Udano tin smelter. The first one will be when the sunset clause, when we complete our final DD, and the sunset clause terminates in June this year. So over about 6 months, we have about $1.2 million that will go to locking down that smelter. In addition to that, the Cleveland project, we're still pulling together the major, the key pieces of data that will support a scoping study and allow us to truly, identify and publish the business case for Cleveland. Cleveland's an interesting one, as I said, and we'll get more into it. We have the existing tin resource, but we also have this substantially increase to the tungsten resources at the bottom of the old decline of the mine. And from the exploration target we also published during the quarter, looks like that story could get a lot bigger. So really well funded, as you'll see in the quarterly. Currently, at the current cash burn, we have 44 quarters of cash sitting there. So obviously that's a company that represents our current cash burn. Is a moment of time we're pushing through our approvals, and once we get through the key milestones on these approvals, we've got plenty of cash to push this project forward into construction. So here we are. Obviously Oropesa remains our foundation asset of our growth strategy in Spain, and it's fair to say that tin concentrate feeding into the smelter does put us in a position where we can start leveraging that Spanish smelting asset into potentially some other opportunities as well. So for us, our focus remains on Oropesa, but there's certainly all the right items there to leverage this into something larger and supply more tin into Europe. Regarding permitting, I know we're all happy to move this forward, and we are making progress. Obviously, when it comes to permitting, there is another significant party in the room, and that's the Andalusian government themselves. We are regularly meeting with them. This is a photo that we published in the December quarter, but we've met with the government a number of times during the March quarter, and things are moving forward. I can say with all confidence that we have the support of the government, we have support of the ministers, and certainly we've had some very strong statements sitting in meetings regarding their support and their confidence that the project will move forward. Obviously, we need to continue it through the more bureaucratic administrative level, which we are, and we look forward to announcing some significant progress in the near future. On that, though, there has been, I say, an unforeseen delay, and that is due to the regional election. So just to contextualize it for people that know it's closed, all our approvals go through the Andalusian region, which is effectively like an Australian state in Spain, but it is more autonomous. All our approvals go through there. We don't need any national level approvals. They just called their elections at the end of March. So the elections are to be held on the 17th of May, of which it is current polling looks like the current government will most likely stay in favour, but we'll see what comes of it. But we have a fair bit of confidence as a company that we will remain with a stable government. And basically, once they form government after those elections, we expect to proceed quite significantly. Like all elections, they go into a bit of a caretaker mode once the election is called. So yeah, we're pushing along and look forward to some major updates soon. Interestingly, and what we're really happy to see is whilst the national government does not control our permitting and approvals, they do obviously control a certain level of agenda for the country and its interaction with the European Union. We're really pleased to see the national government last month put tin on their priority raw materials list. So effectively, this is the Spanish government's own critical minerals list. They don't call it that because the EU has their own critical minerals list, but effectively they've put some very substantial budgets against promoting these minerals in Spain, including exploration and other support. In fact, as of about a week ago, the Spanish government has put out a grant announcement where they'll support grants for companies exploring for these tenements. Obviously, we will participate in that, and are hopeful that there's some further opportunities moving forward to work closely with the Spanish government and for them to support us with some budgets. So this is the challenging one for me to give much detail, but what I can give is we are working really closely with a number of parties. Obviously, we have Metals X on our register, and we have 2 members of the Metals X company sitting on our board. So we continue to have discussions with Metals X. In addition to that, we have a number of other parties sitting in our data room currently doing due diligence. These are very, very significant parties in the world of tin and the world of tin trading and in global finance. So we're really happy with the quality and the sophistication and the level of due diligence a number of these parties are doing on the project. And we really look forward to bringing some of these parties to a point where there is a investment decision to be made. All these interactions are currently being managed by Elementos's independent subcommittee. Basically, the process is when that independent subcommittee gets to a point where we have a deal on the table, it then goes to the Elementos board. And obviously, when we hit the required thresholds, any proposed deals will be brought to the attention of shareholders. Obviously, this is highly regulated by the ASX, where we cannot disclose parties that are under NDA currently or have not reached a point of having a deal with enough confidence to announce. But I just want to reiterate to everyone, we're really thrilled, and there's a lot of effort going from Elementos to work with these parties. A number of them have already been to site, both mine and smelter, and with the International Tin Conference coming up in May, we have quite a full agenda. We are taking a large proportion of the International Tin Conference attendees to site as an official visit. We also have a number of private visits with a number of these parties to come via the mine and the smelter. So again, a lot of confidence that things are moving ahead on this front and in parallel to the permitting. So getting on to Cleveland, which I think there was a lot more technical detail and progress made on Cleveland than Oropesa for the project. Obviously, Oropesa is effectively already investment ready with the DFS and ore reserve ready to go. So Cleveland, the major update we did here was the increase of the tungsten resource. And apologies, I've just noticed the tungsten resource on this slide is incorrect. We're up to 8.5 million tonnes. And we have a 32 to 90 million tonne exploration target. But I believe the next slide does a better example of this. Here we are. So this is where the upgrade of the tungsten resources was done and announced during the quarter. Very substantial upgrade in the inferred resource, but also a very substantial upgrade to the exploration target. Now, all these numbers probably need a bit of an explanation. I think the chart on the image on the right does a really good job of this. You'll see the dark purplish color there sitting at the bottom of the old decline is the upgraded inferred resource for the tungsten, and the light blue halo, which actually comes above the purple and then goes deeper, that is the exploration target, which is 32 to 90 million tonnes. One thing I probably haven't made as much prominence as the company should is that this current modeling of the exploration target is all limited by drilling. And in fact, the drilling of the deposit, the grades continue to get better with depth. This looks like a very substantial tungsten ore body, and we certainly have some plans to further define this to turn some of that exploration target up into and inferred resource and further levels of confidence. But again, this will probably be done after we get through a scoping study, and all the data acquisition we're doing right now is to get ready for that scoping study. In fact, there are a number of historic assays, historic core, which we've identified at the Tasmanian Government's core library, which is actually showing that there are extensions outside the resource. And we published a number of those results throughout the quarter as well, including results on the tungsten, bismuth, molybdenum, and then in the quarterly, although it wasn't a separate standalone announcement, were these intercepts of the fluorite. This is from the bottom of a hole which was not previously assayed by the previous owners that we found in the core library. We reassayed it, and there's quite substantial, as well as the tungsten, the bismuth, moly. There's quite substantial fluorite there as well. So, and again, this is mineralization that sits outside the resource shape. So, very interesting deposit at depth, and we continue to get excited by the potential at Cleveland. Obviously, I said this resource work's been done to support a scoping study. We are now doing a lot of the other pieces of work. We did put a lot of this the tungsten, moly, rubidium, fluorite, bismuth, all these, we did put it through the ore sorters, and it upgraded very well. We put out those results as of March quarter last year. And then in this year, we've taken the results of that ore sorting, and we've now sent those samples off to a number of laboratories. 160 kilos has gone off to the SLR metallurgical laboratories in Cornwall in the UK. They will be looking to get some upgrade results for the tungsten, moly, bismuth, and fluorspar. And then we have ALS Burney concentrating the rubidium into a mica concentrate. That will then be sent off to Germany to a company that specializes in rubidium. So rubidium is one of those interesting minerals, currently trades for about over $1 million a ton. So the results there could really be a step change for the economics of this project. In saying that, we think there's still a good base with the tungsten, tin, and everything else to be a very interesting project. I'll use the right word there, interesting project moving forward. So for us, really clear, Oropesa, all focus is on moving these approvals forward. We have a lot of confidence they'll move forward in the next quarter. And then number two is bringing Cleveland along. We still don't think Cleveland and the potential down there is fully recognised by the market. So we believe moving this through into some formal studies is something that will certainly unlock some value for our shareholders. So we continue to move forward on both fronts. So I think I've covered most of this, but really clear Oropesa. In parallel to the permitting, we are working with parties that will play a major role in debt equity and offtake commitments. Obviously, we attract a very different off-taker base than probably most of the other tin producers. Most of those guys are planning on producing concentrate and either selling them to smelters or global traders. We are moving through to producing a tin ingot metal. Because of that, we are actually attracting off-take interest from people who actually want to use and consume that metal, which really is been a strategic difference of our company, and one we continue to see substantial values in. On that, just to remind everyone, tin metal deliveries within Europe attract about a minimum around about $1,000 premium above the LME price. So for us, it's very substantial to be delivering tin within Europe from our European-based project, both from a regulatory, government relations, and then obviously just from the pure business case. It is a very good market to be delivering metal into. In addition to that, on the Cleveland side, we're moving forward the network, and hopefully on board support, we'll then move that into a scoping study. Tin price is doing fantastically. Obviously, we did the Oropesa DFS at $30,000. The average price over the last 12 months has been $39, and during the March quarter, the average tin price was $49,000 a tonne. So tin prices have rallied for the reasons we put here. Obviously, there is no primary production of tin in Europe or in North America. So the strategic importance of having this project in Europe is very substantial. For political and business case reasons. And for the first time, we've actually published a tungsten chart. You'll see it's gone absolutely near vertical. A lot of the listed tungsten companies have had substantial increases to their share price and market cap off the back of it. The reasons for this: China's brought in a lot of export controls, and that's due to a lot more tungsten demand. A lot more people, firstly from military and construction uses, and secondly, just because people are talking about building strategic stockpiles because it's such a thin market. So not a bad time to have a tin project, certainly not a bad time to have a tin and tungsten project in Tasmania. So as I said, it remains the second story for us, Cleveland. Oripacer is firmly our primary goal to move forward, but certainly a pretty handy project to be moving forward in the background. I've probably covered most of this. The company hit about a $200 million market cap earlier this week, 46-cent share price. We have no debt. We have just under $40 million worth of cash at the end of the December quarter. About 38 of that is currently sitting in term deposits, rolling term deposits, earning about 4.5% interest. So certainly we've been prudent with that cash, and certainly there'll be some interest returned to us as those term deposits roll over moving forward. 49% of our register is held by top 3 shareholders, very supportive, large shareholders that we believe will be on the long ride with the company. And then obviously the top 10 hold a fair bit, with only 31% of the register being held by others. Either way, many of you probably on the call, so thank you for your support. But it's a very strong institutional and trade player-based register now, and we feel like we're really well placed going into project financing moving forward. So thank you, guys. That's my presentation. You can connect with us through all these means, and we will be at it. We've just got published here the next 4 investor conferences we'll be in. We'll be at RAU in Sydney next week, so if you're there, please pop in and say good day. We'll then be at the International Tin Conference, which is being held in Seville in Spain later in May. That's very substantial for us. The Tin Conference only meets every 2 years. So tin industry only meets every 2 years at the International Tin Conference, and it's being hosted in our backyard in Spain. So for us, really substantial and a really great opportunity to bring some of those major strategic groups through the project and further get some more parties interested in coming on the journey into production with us. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks for that, Joe. We'll move quickly on to the questions we received during the week. Without further ado, the first question I have here is: what is your thoughts on timing on mine approval, given election and government critical minerals push?
Yeah, I'll probably cover most of that in the presentation, Gareth. But yeah, we are working very closely with them. Obviously, the election will delay any major milestone being announced in the next couple of weeks until the election's held. And saying that, we're very hopeful that soon after that election, we will be pushed through. The next major step for us on the approvals, just so everyone's aware, is a declaration of compliance, and then we move into the public exhibition phase. That is a 30 business day phase, and after that, we then move into pretty much some paperwork, paper shuffling. So for me, if I was going to throw out a date right now, we're certainly still very hopeful that the project will be fully permitted before the end of the year, so Q4 2026.
Now, you mentioned you are attending the International Tin Conference in Spain in May. What do you hope to achieve from this event?
Well, yeah, I guess again, it's the whole tin industry meets every 2 years. Obviously, the International Tin Association, which runs it, contacted us, about a year ago and said, "Hey, would you be happy to assist us with hosting it in Spain?" Of course, this is a great opportunity for us. So we, of course, said yes. We are sponsoring the event. Because of that, we obviously get to speak. We get to host a couple of events, but we also do a major site visit. So we have 40 groups, 40 people on one of our industry site visits happening before, smelters, traders, bankers, and a few other miners as well coming along on that. But as I said, because the entire industry is coming to Spain for this event, we have a very busy schedule before and after the event, taking a number of our interested parties via the mine and smelter to further their due diligence.
Another question, the status of tendering of work packages.
Yeah, so during our DFS, which we published last year, we really went through a process, and I guess into completing that DFS, of market testing. 90% of our project has been market tested, which effectively means being priced by contractors. So we've already gone through at least a shortlisting exercise for our major packages, and really the major packages that make up majority of the capital costs of this project are the process plant, the non-process infrastructure, the civil packages, the tailings dam construction, and the contract mining. We are probably down to at least 2 qualified parties that we would think we'll most likely contract with on those major packages. However, there are many subcontractor packages that sit under those, which will rely on local content, Spanish parties to play their role as subbies, as well as a number of opportunities that remain for OEM and equipment suppliers. So the major packages are getting closer to being awarded, I guess, as the permits move forward. But yeah, lots of subcontracting and works packages to be released. Hopefully these will be progressed in the back end of this year.
What is the company's dividend policy moving forward?
This is the first time I've been asked this, Gareth. So thank you to the person that wrote this one in. We don't currently have an official dividend policy. I think people have to realise where the company is currently in, and I can only speak on the basis of being managing director. This is a dividend policy that obviously requires the board to declare one. At the moment, we see the major return for investors being through the capital and the share price, on the basis that we have some major milestones which hopefully will re-rate the company. So we think that's a major way people can get value out of Elementos. But of course, as the project goes into operations and we start making free cash flow and our debt levels are at reasonable levels, we will certainly consider paying dividends. Obviously, that's the goal of all mining companies. But currently, no dividend policy, but certainly it's something that we'll address at the appropriate time.
What is the status of your stake in the tin smelter?
Yeah, so it's for those not familiar with contracting, it might sound complex, but we have a legally binding contract to acquire 50% of the tin smelter. Now, what that binding contract was some conditions precedent in it. Those conditions precedent all need to be satisfied by June this year. Some of those conditions sat with the owner of the smelter, so there were some further upgrades, installation of a vacuum furnace, a number of things like that. A lot of those things have been achieved. There's still some final stages of due diligence we're doing on the legal and regulatory side, as well as some technical works. But either way, most likely this is all going to be completed by June, at which time we pay the first there's 2 phases, but over 6 months we pay $1.2 million which is called the option fee, which locks down the option, and then we have up to 5 years to exercise the rest of the payments to take the 50% of the equity. Obviously, as a company, where we're at is where we'll decide whether we try to time the exercise of those options with the concentrate arriving from Oropesa. So that's one option. The second option, which we're obviously running some business cases on, is actually exercising that early, getting some of the financial returns early because the smelter is currently operating, as well as pursuing some other tin concentrate opportunities to smelt through the facility before the Oropesa concentrate's available.
Okay, so you've been referencing strategic investors, off-takers and financing participants being in the Oropesa data room for a few quarters now. Can you give us any more information?
Yeah, again, it's probably, I'd love to. I'd love to name some of the parties because I think some people on the call will be very happy, but unfortunately we can't. As I said, they're under NDAs. and we haven't yet reached the confidence thresholds required by the ASX to name any of these parties anyway. Basically, you need a level of confidence of an offer that the board considers material before it's worth doing it. Otherwise, you get caught up in the ramping provisions by the ASX. But either way, I can say without naming the parties, because we produce tin metal, we are attracting off-takers that are interested in buying tin metal. We also are obviously talking with a number of the big traders who trade tin metal. We also have consortiums of banks, both Spanish domestic, European and global banks, currently doing due diligence on being able to provide senior debt facilities to help the project get financed. So all this is in parallel to the permitting, and all this is alongside the interest we have from what would be called a major trade player, being Metals X, who I can name, sitting on our register. So really happy with the groups we have interested in the project right now.
Okay, so moving over to your other project, how much focus does the company have on the Cleveland Tin project, and will this truly be a second asset for the company in your view?
Oh, I think it already is. Oh, sorry, true. It is a second asset for the company, and it's not just an exploration company. It is a proven tin mine, which produced tin and copper for about 36 years, from the 1960s and 1980s, and earlier around the First World War. So it has a demonstrated history of production. It was producing tin when tin was about $4,000 or $5,000 a ton. Obviously now in a $50,000 a ton market. It's got a substantial tin resource, 7.5 million tons of hard rock tin. We have 4 million tons of tailings, which have been proven metallurgically they can be reprocessed, and about 50% of the tin recovered. And now we've got this 8.5 million ton resource sitting with a historic decline actually going into the tungsten. Absolutely, I'm confident this is a second asset for the company. The reason we have not moved it at the same pace as Oropesa in the last 4 or 5 years has been to be prudent with our shareholders' funds, and we think it was worth putting our money and management focus, being a small company, into a single asset rather than spreading it across 2 assets and building a much larger cost base. But where we are right now, it's looking really good. And the publication of a scoping study, we are hopeful will be a step change for the market's view on what the Cleveland project can do. The other thing I'd like to just comment on is I did a North American roadshow with the Tasmanian and federal government earlier this year. And we spent time in New York, Washington, and Toronto. And I'd just say the global interest, especially in North America, in tin and tungsten is extremely important now. It sits on both Canada and the US's critical minerals list, and they know they're very, very short. So you couldn't pick 2 better commodities to be in, and I think there's a very strong future for Cleveland moving forward.
All right, Joe, that concludes all the questions. I suppose signing off is the idea that the resonates with me is 44 quarters of funding, nearly 4 years of funding. That's not a bad position to be in. And I suppose that frees you up to focus on what you want to do best, and that's deliver the projects. Not having that sort of wasting exhaust on trying to find money all the time must be sort of liberating and energizing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fair to say our current cash burn, which drives that 44-month forecast we had to put in our cash flow, is because we're pushing through approvals right now rather than doing major on-ground works. Obviously, when we get over this milestone and move the permits forward, that cash burn will go up a little bit, but for all the right reasons. We're moving towards construction operations.
All right, great way to close. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for your time. The presentation will be shared on socials and on the Elementos website for anyone who missed it or would like to get a recap. For that concludes our webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.